Test.
Good evening. We call to order the regular meeting of the West Valley City Council. This meeting is being held here in the City Council chambers as well as the electronic means. Public can join us here or electronically, either way. We note that we have a quorum. We have 6 council members either in person or electronically in attendance at our meeting. Councilman Tom Hune is excused. With that, we'll begin with our Inside the City video.
Hi, welcome to Chill with the Chief. I'm out here at the park with our community-oriented police officers, and we come out here and meet our community and play games with them, hand out popsicles, and just have a wonderful conversation with our community while we're at their park. I really enjoy interacting with our communities, and not oftentimes do people want to come down to City Hall or to the police department, so I like to go out into the community and meet them at certain events. So we created this event so it'd be comfortable for people to come down and meet with me, have one-on-one conversations, and bring me any issues they'd like to talk about. So keep an eye on our Facebook page and find out when the next Chill with the Chief is, and come on down for a tasty treat and beat the heat.
Okay. Elected officials. Then we have our minutes of June 22nd, a motion and a second on the minutes, if they are correct.
I move for approval of those minutes.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Then without objection, our minutes will be approved. Hearing no objection, the minutes are approved unanimously. Next, we have our comment period. We have several people who are signed up today to participate. And we do have maybe some who aren't here, haven't been here before, some have, but 5 minutes maximum. Everything directed to the mayor. It is not question and answer. It's your time to ask or to present your information, and we will listen. The council may respond afterwards after everyone's had a chance to speak. With that, then, we'll begin with Jim Visak, who signed up.
I presume there's nobody online, but
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Little bit of update on my hometown stuff. Lots of things happened in the last 2 weeks. There was another town hall meeting with the Chesterfield area. They have the same concerns that the other three had about lighting, sidewalks, safety in their areas. And then once they're directed on what my hometown is, taking care of their neighbors, helping their neighbors with issues and stuff. It's good that on the My Hometown page, you'll see where neighbors will post where they need help, and to see another neighbor or somebody on the My Hometown step up and go out and do weeding. There was an example just last week. Somebody needed weeding in their yard with a mowing and weed eater. And 3 or 4 guys went out there with their weed eaters and took care of it. The My Hometown thing is a great thing. The day of service is a great event to get out to. I know Mr. Pyle I've seen him at a couple of them. I've seen Nicole at a couple of them. It's a good thing to get out there, get your hands dirty. I think I told you a couple weeks ago, I went out there to talk to people, hand out waters. They found out I knew something about sprinklers, and they put me to work. And I mean, you get your hands dirty out there. It's a great way to improve our community. And hopefully it will spread even more. Saturday for the 4th of July, on the 3rd, they had a breakfast in the park at Trailhead Park. My hometown did it all. They had bacon, sausage, ham, pancakes, fruit. It was a fun event to go out. Craig Thomas was out there with the city games. They had lots of stuff out there. There was music. Boy Scouts came out, color guard, fun event. If you guys can get out to a My Hometown event, I suggest that you guys do that. It's a fun thing to do, and it's a great thing where this program has gone in less than 3 years, I believe it is. So that's all I have.
Thank you. Next, we have Kesley Jensen.
Mayor, City Council members, thank you for your time today. I wanted to voice my concerns about application GPZ-8-2021.
Actually, we're going to have a separate public hearing for that, the one that we have on our agenda tonight.
Yes.
If you'll hold that comment, this is for anything else.
Oh, I
We'll
apologize.
have, no. I should have stated that at the start when we have those. You forgot to remind me. I forget.
No problem. Thank you.
And you only get 5 minutes at this one and you get all unlimited.
On the
at
next
other
one, the public one, it'll be as long as you need it.
Well, I'll save my comment.
Well, generally speaking. Okay, so then Mike Rigdon.
Mayor, I assure you, how many times you've said that to me? I assure you. What conflicts of interest do you have, Mayor? What conflicts of interest? What sweetheart deals, Mayor, have you done in your term with him? What sweetheart deals have you done? You know, I can think of several of them. Money? Yeah, big smile. Money. You remember money? It goes along with milk. Now, why would I bring up milk? Because that's part of the Good Old Guys Club. You were all part of the Good Old Guys Club, which you didn't have any conflict of interest. Heaven forbid. I assure you. What do we develop in this town? Highways? Do we develop unsafe highways? Do we develop freeways in our city-owned streets? Do we look at the money issue and say, this is a priority. We don't have any sweetheart deals in this city. You know, I can think of so much stuff, you know, over the years. Utopia, that brought up about 10 years ago on my back, and it still has a great big hair flying up. Why is that? Oh, because there were probably some sweetheart deals back in the day. Don't you think? Well, there could have been. Well, I'm sure Mr. Brurosh had something to do with it, sharing milk with everybody here. How about you? How about you? You all drank milk with him? He threw the city under the bus. Absolutely. And yet, I can't believe how everybody, because, let's say, how did you put it, Mayor? Not I sure you. No. Welcome to city life. Well, let's see. Here's another one. Well, that's living in the big city. You remember saying that? Of course you do. You said it to me. Why did you say it to me? I don't know. But you know, there's really some good that can come out of some bad. You know, I take a look at all the sweetheart deals. I take a look at, you know, the health center, Utopia. You know, I always wondered about Danielle Wittard. You know, what sweetheart deals was conceived back in that day, manager? You know, I think it's time, manager and mayor, that you've already announced that you are going to get on the horse and ride out in the sunset. You know what? I assure you, I will be very happy if you could take this gentleman here and show him the way to Missouri, because that's where he really wants to work, is Missouri. I love Missouri. Can all of you here commit to change, to end culture? I mean, end culture. We talked about culture. We have. And because I come here not to drink milk, sir, I assure you, because I don't go to church with you, does that make me not a citizen of this city or a part of this city? Because of my skin color, does that make me not a part of? I assure you that we have a plan to develop safety on a highway that somebody developed because he didn't have enough money, and so he just bombards it through. 4100 south from 4200 west to 5400 west is not safe.
Thank
And I
you.
assure you, that's the words you use, me.
Thank you.
get
Your
on that
5
horse.
minutes is up.
Missouri's a beautiful place, sir.
Let's see. Next, I think, Mr. Moore, you're with the later one. Yeah. Okay. Anyone else for public comment? Yes. Come forward and state your name for the record.
Hi, Mayor. Steve Vincent, 4628 Woodgrove Drive, West Valley City. Initially wasn't coming here for this, but while I'm here, just want to give a shout out to all of the city staff, particularly the parks and fire and police, for the efforts they give us for West Fest. We couldn't hold that event without the backing of those departments. And this year in particular was difficult with coming out of COVID. We didn't know whether we were going to have the event till at the very latest stages. And so we do want to give a shout out to the city staff for the work they do in helping us put that on. Thank you.
Thank you. Another successful year. With that, then that completes the public hearing part. We'll go back here to the council. Mr. City Manager, anything you want to add?
Yes, Mayor, thanks. I got a couple of comments.
Okay,
First, I just wanted to give an update on the fire situation over the weekend. As you know, we were very worried about what might or might not happen, and turned out in the end that we did have a lot of activity, which is sort of a normal course, but we didn't have any major fires. I think some of that is attributable to our watch. Some of it is attributable to the citizens just taking care of things. And some of it is also attributable to our definition of what areas are at a higher risk and what are not, which we've designated in compliance with state law and all of that. So I would just wanted to mention that things went well that way. Well is a relative term because there's a lot of communication, a lot of running around, and sometimes there's even neighbors that are unhappy, but we didn't have any large fires or structural issues or anything that way. The other thing I just wanted to mention real quickly was, and we made a pretty big deal about this throughout the last week, but I wanted to mention it publicly too, that Mr. Willardson, our Public Works Director, left after 38 years of devoted service to the city, did a great job, was always very dedicated, always very interested in doing things well, and he did do a great job, and just wanted to mention him as we will not be seeing him anymore, and also mention that we're very happy and want to welcome his successor, who we're going to swear in as the new Public Works Director next week, Mr. Dan Johnson. That's it. Thanks, Mayor.
thank you. To the council, any comments? Yes.
I have a comment, Mayor. I'd like to talk about the comment period itself. The reason we have a comment period is because we as a city council want to hear from the residents. We want to hear from the public. And it's perfectly fine to come here and tell us what you think we ought to do and to tell us what you think we ought not to do. That's fine. We don't always agree among ourselves what should be done, or if an action we took was a good idea or not. But it is offensive and it is ignorant to come here and allege impropriety, or to allege any kind of self-dealing or any kind of corruption without any proof. And I can attest that there's nobody sitting at this dais that is getting money through back channels or is acting in anything other than what he or she sees to be the best interest of the city. That's all I have to say.
Okay, thank you. Yes, many people have opinions. However, if there ever is an allegation, I guess I would say, of impropriety or anything illegal, there are channels to go through to get those taken care of. And in Utah, regardless of where it is at the city, county, state level, there are avenues, and those are aggressively pursued to their proper conclusion, whatever that might be. So with that then, we'll move on our agenda to the next item, which is a public hearing. This is on application GPZ-8-2021 filed by Moore Homes for property at 7147 West Parkway. Just a moment, we'll open a public hearing on that. After that public hearing, we will address 3 different items on our agenda where we may or may not vote in favor of or against or whatever. Ordinance 21-39, a general plan change. Ordinance 21-40, a zoning change. And Resolution 21-109, a development agreement. This property is for 6.7 acres of property at approximately 7147 West Parkway Boulevard. For those of you familiar with the area, it is on the southeast corner there and is proposed for development, medium density residential or multiple unit dwelling residential for a senior condo development. The average square foot size of each of those units is just over 12,000 square feet. So, oh no, I said that wrong. I'm just reading here. 12,000 square feet, that's pretty big. You'll have to expand that area quite a bit. Must be, is it 1,200 square feet? Is there an extra zero in there? Or what is that? Well, we have someone here that can clarify that. And so, other than that one error there, I think that 1,500 square feet. Okay, about. Okay. My left-hand guy here, he keeps me on track, which I appreciate. Shouldn't just read the script. But that is the issue that we are dealing with. So first of all, what we will do is we will open that for public comment. We do have someone online electronically that we will begin with. We will invite that individual to have their say. And then I believe there are a couple of people here, at least one or two, who want to speak to this as well. With that, Nicole?
Mayor, we actually have two people online that would
people
like to
online.
speak. The first person is Pamela Lyon. Pamela, you should be able to unmute your microphone and speak now.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead,
Oh.
please.
Oh, thank you, Mayor. Thank you for allowing me the time. My name is Pamela Lyon. I live in a 55 and older development, actually just down the street from this development that is being asked for zoning changes. I wanted to speak to that, the importance of needing 55 and older community in our West Valley. There are not very many of them. There is a strong need as we move forward with a lot of older people who are looking to downsize their homes. I can give you an instance. I'm actually the vice president of our HOA at this moment and have lived in this HOA for 5 years. And one of the things that we are finding is we have people who are so interested in moving into our community that are 55 and older. They are so wanting to get out of their homes and get into these developments so they don't have to take care of their yards and do snow removal and to downsize. And so I wanted to just give you from my perspective of there is a great need for these developments. Also, in talking to my community members, they love living in a 55 and older community where there are activities. There is a clubhouse, there's a pickleball court, and they just, and as being a seniors, they are so excited to be able to have those and those things to do in their senior years. So I just wanted to let you know that there is a shortage of these type of developments in West Valley and even in the county. And I highly encourage you to accept the rezoning and to allow this to happen because there are people out there. We had 5 homes sold this last year in the last 6 months and 10 to 15 offers on each home and were sold within 2 to 3 days of them going up for open houses. So you can see the need and the housing shortage that takes on this. So I hope that my comments will help in the zoning. I understand there are people, we had issues here as well. People were concerned about a housing development because there is single homes here. But I feel like we have made a partnership with the community. We've become a part of the community, and I hope that can be the same in that area as well. So thank you.
Thank you. Next, Nicole.
Next, we have Robert Goodick. Robert, you should be able to unmute your microphone and speak now.
Thank you. Is that coming through okay?
Yes, we can hear you.
Thank you, everyone, for this opportunity to speak. My name is Robert Goodick. I live directly across the street from this proposed development on Antelope Road. So our home faces to the north. I live here with my wife, Sophia DeCaro, and we lived in this property for 12 years with the hopes that the church would either develop the land or a developer would come in and build some single family homes. While I understand the need for more 55 and over residences in Salt Lake County, we feel, and a lot of my neighbors feel the same, is that this particular lot is not the appropriate lot to add more units. This intersection is heavily trafficked. Adding 43 units, which was originally a proposal of 50 units, is too dense. And looking through the material for the meeting, looking at an aerial view, we bought this home because it has a 1/3 acre lot. Like many of my neighbors, we wanted some space. We wanted some room to breathe. Everything that's being built right now is high density. And the last thing we feel that we want facing out of our front door is more high density. So not to insult the need or downplay the need, but I think based on the last couple of meetings that we had with the Planning Commission, is that it seems like in Utah, and I've been here for 25 years, the voice of the developer in the state, and now it's it seems like it's happening in West Valley more and more, is that the voice of the developer is heard more than the voice of the resident and the voice of the people who live in the community. Over the last couple of meetings, I've heard promises and how all these problems are going to be resolved, and there's such a need here. But I think we're missing the point that there's a lot of people who want a new single family home, right? And they want a home on the standards that West Valley said that they were going to hold to, which were 1/4 acre lots with better materials, room to breathe, green space. We're fortunate and blessed to have a nice walking path through our community. That wouldn't exist on this corner here. Nothing would exist that would look aesthetically pleasing. Mr. Moore has put together some nice slides, some good artist renderings and everything. But at the end of the day, if you look at some of these developments, especially I believe it's Bingham Point, the newer one, there's no room. It's just house upon house upon house and nothing but concrete. That's not what we want here on Antelope Road and Hawker and Mountain Goat, right? We bought big lots. We want room to breathe there. I have to say, I'm also a little disappointed in the process. I feel that before we went to these other meetings, the Planning Commission meetings, that the voice of the Planning Commission, they had already made up their mind. There's a lot of dialogue already back and forth. As I said, the original proposal was for 50 units and then came back and added some other amenities, the token pickleball court. And I know those are in demand right now. It's a fun game, but we have the West Valley Rec Center that has multiple courts as well, right? So there's just not all these answers resonate with me and my neighbors who I've spoken to, that they want a single family development across the street. Traffic congestion, high issue. If you look at some of the proposals that were already run, there'd be entryways that make absolutely no sense. And I know that would have to go before a development agreement with the city planners. And I have full faith in their ability to do their job. But some of what was proposed does not complement this area. I don't think it adds value to what we're doing. I think it goes against what West Valley stated a few years ago, is that we're going to build more quality. We're going to give people room to breathe. We're going to give the residents what they want. I feel also that on this side of West Valley, that we have enough of these types of developments. I myself, I'm 52 years old. My wife is 43 years old. Eventually one day we can see that need, but we don't need them all concentrated on this side of West Valley. And I'm hoping that the council tonight listens to the people who live here and not developers who stand to make millions upon millions of dollars by developing these high density type of developments. They do serve a need, but we feel like we've had enough on this side of West Valley, and I'm asking the commission to vote against this tonight, and let's hope for some better development, some single family, and something a little bit more responsible. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. We also have I believe that completes all of them electronically. Is that correct, Nicole?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
Okay, we have two people here. I believe it was Kesley Jensen. You're welcome to come up to the microphone and share your thoughts.
Round two, that first one was just a warm up. So I am also a resident that lives very close to the proposed development. So if you've seen the maps where the roundabout is, I'm just on the other side of the roundabout. So I've been there for just over 10 years now, and we look out over that vacant lot, and, you know, we would like to see it developed. I'm not against senior housing. I'm really not. In fact, I think it'd be great. Nice, quiet neighbors, no loud teenagers driving around crazy all hours of the night. So I'm not here to speak about that. I am here to speak about the intersection of 7200 West and Parkway. As you may or may not know, that intersection is very, very busy. There are times in the morning when I hear the accidents that happen, and the accidents that happen on that intersection are generally totaling vehicles. I did send you an email where I pointed out 3 very specific traffic issues that I have with that intersection. So I'm here to implore you tonight, not to say, please get away from the senior housing. I'm here to say, can you please, while we're looking at this, fix this intersection so that it's safe, not only for me, but for the seniors that you're going to be placing right on a very, very busy intersection. So one thing to keep in mind, my husband was hit on this intersection. He was driving a full-size Chevy pickup truck, and it was totaled in the accident. Thank God he was not injured because the side air packs went off, but he's just one of the many injuries, you know, the cars that have been totaled on that intersection. What happened was somebody just ran the light. They come flying down Parkway, and they don't even realize that that intersection is right there with 7200 West. So I think I'm not a civil engineer. I don't have any way to fix it, but I'm asking you to ask somebody to look at that intersection and fix it. The other issue with our cul-de-sac, if you look at how the seniors would be entering and exiting, as they're coming on 7200 traveling north, there is no dedicated right-hand turn lane. It's a problem that we have right now. So as you're turning, you've just got to whip around that corner and pray the guy behind you pays attention to your turn signal. Right now, there's not a lot of traffic right there, so you can usually just come flying in the road, right, and kind of take more room than you probably should. You probably should enter a lot more slowly, and people do come in very quickly. So I would recommend maybe we could put a dedicated turn lane there, or think about some ways where we could slow the traffic down. The other issue is when you are heading west on Parkway. So as the senior citizens and myself would be turning left into the subdivision, there is no dedicated left-hand turn lane at this time. So when we're driving west, the bright sun is in our eyes, and it's very difficult for traffic to see that you're stopped and turning into that intersection. So I think the road is wide enough there. Maybe they could think about, the city council could help us residents by making those 2 intersections a lot more safer. That's not good English. I apologize. But anyway, make it more safe, do some things to maybe slow down Parkway so that we don't have any injuries when our senior citizens and other residents are trying to come in and out of this community. So I thank you so much for your time, and I appreciate West Valley. They've done a great job of keeping our neighborhood safe. I love where I live. The police presence was on our street last night or yesterday, almost all day. As you know, the SWAT team was there handling an incident. We always feel very safe in our neighborhood. And so we thank you for all of the work that you're doing.
Thank you. Anyone else to speak to that? Yes, it's Mr. Rigdon.
I assure you that every time we talk about senior development, people always use the year senior development. How old are you, Mayor? Yeah. How old are people? 55 years and older. You develop, a developer comes in with a plan, and the sweetheart deal is this. We're going to call it a senior development, but yet we cannot regulate who lives in that senior development. I question authority here. Why can't you say there is only going to be 55 years and older, period? But yet every time we go and develop a new development, you say, well, we're going to have 1,500 square foot, and there's only going to be 1 car driveway. And the next thing you know, 5 years down the road, we have brother, sister, boyfriend, cousin. Can we go on and on? Because there is no zoning commission that will stand up and say, this is a senior place, 55 and older. I go into a rec center. We've already had this discussion. They owe me 10 years of dues that I paid because I wasn't considered a senior citizen. I was over 55, but yet they charged me how much? The full bull weight. Why? Because senior citizens is classified as 65 years and older, not 55. So what happened here? Why do we have this? I don't know. I can't figure out. How come the zoning commission can't stand up and say, there's no more than this many people in a unit, period. We have 2 rooms, okay, 2 rooms. That means a total of 4 people. 4 people. Never happens that way. You can't regulate it because of why? Because of federal regulations. So why are you calling it a senior development? It's not a senior development. A senior person can buy it. He can lease it out to anyone he wants to, any family member that's under 50 years and old, whatever, because you can't tell them what to do. They've already built it. There's no guidelines in there. There's nothing protecting a senior citizen like me. And if I want to move in there, I don't have to face somebody's grandchildren, somebody's niece, somebody's boyfriend, and on because they have 3 and 4 people in one room living. I don't get it. It's not a senior development.
Thank you. Next, Mr. Vincent.
Steve Vincent, 4628 Woodgrove Drive. So I'm here to speak on this project, maybe not this specific site, but the specific need in the city. I served on this council when we created the residential estate zone, which was super important. And I think it's super important to maintain going forward because that was a specific piece of property that we weren't providing for people who wanted to move up. The other piece that I was always concerned with was this piece of property that would be for senior adults. Susan and I have been looking for a place to move over the last 2 years, have wanted to stay in the city, but haven't found a piece that would meet that requirement. So we've had to look out. We've put our name on a list for a property in Tooele. Do we really want to move to West Valley to Tooele? Not really. We'd love to remain in the city. So I think it's a piece of the puzzle that still needs to be addressed by the council. I looked at the minutes from the Pierce property that was zoned here just a few months ago. And I know that was a difficult decision. And I know that Steve and Jake voted not to approve that. And I understand that because that was a hard fought to get that residential estate zone. But I can tell you this, Susan and I are very interested in that senior project. And so we will be having a very good look at that when that's finally being developed. So as to this piece of property, whether it's appropriate for this space or not, I don't know. But I do know that it's a piece of the puzzle that still needs to be addressed in the city, that we still need to provide opportunities for the seniors. And as to the nuances of whether it's legal to be under 55 or not, I think Mr. Moore can speak to that these are regulated by federal housing, and that something like 80% of the people that live in there have to be 55, and it's maintained by the association and those types of things. The other thing that's nice about these, and I know we've battled over the years about whether, with apartments and townhomes, how we have people parking all up and down the streets and creating traffic problems. With these plus 55 communities, you just don't have that because it's husband and wife, and they're there, and they might have just 2 vehicles and an occasional visitor, and the traffic in and out of those communities are rather low compared to some of the other neighborhoods. So again, to this piece of property, I don't know, but to the product that we need in the city, I believe it's it's something that still needs to be addressed. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, Mr. Visak.
This is odd. I wasn't the first one. I listened 2 weeks ago in the study meeting about this. And for the record, this is the fourth one that has come before council in the last 3 months. So there will be a bunch being built. Looking at the artist rendering, which I brought up from the meeting, these do sort of look like single family homes, but they're not. This is a busy corner. I've been out there a few times driving around, and seniors driving in and out. I think we're asking for more accidents and stuff. We do need the senior housing. Once again, this is the fourth one. Talking to the builder before the meeting, he spent the last year and a half changing things. And it's not his fault that he's the fourth one coming up, but is this the right place for this? I personally would like to see more single family homes like that are in the area. That's what I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Seeing no other people here? Oh, did you want to speak?
Yes.
Oh, I thought I'd ask you and you said,
Oh, I'm sorry. That was, I thought.
okay. Sorry for the miscommunication.
I apologize, Mayor. I thought that.
No, you're welcome. You can come.
I thought I ended up on the list for the general comments. So that's when you asked, I thought maybe I signed on that coming in.
No.
So I'm good to go. Okay. Mayor, council members, good evening. Thank you for looking at this issue and taking comment on it. A couple of issues right off. These types of developments are the only federally regulated housing where you can be discriminated. They are senior housing. 80% or more have to be 55 or older in the community. They are not a type of development where you see other relatives and many people coming in and occupying a home, multiple families. It can't happen. It doesn't happen. And there's an HOA there to enforce it and to continue to enforce that. So they are senior developments. I think when you look at this property, I've looked at this property for years, a couple of years. Came before this council prior to COVID. Originally looked at this property as possibly being townhomes. This is a fairly busy intersection. I looked up the UDOT traffic counts. 7200 West has about 20,000 cars a day. Salt Lake County just recently did a study. I've got a copy of it here. Maybe I'm sure you've probably seen it. Sad to hear that Russ Willardson has left. I've spent a lot of years working with Russ. Greatly miss Russ. But that 7200 West, Salt Lake County has done a study to look at 7200 West to continue out all the way to I-80 into the prison over time. So the traffic will increase on 7200 West to some degree. Both 7200 West and Parkway are 5-lane, two lanes each way and a center turn lane. Question is, when you look at this property, what's appropriate and what's the best use for the property? The city has an ordinance that really does not allow commercial to be on the corner. I think there's a possibility of some commercial uses on the corner, but I believe that there's a requirement of a minimum of 5 acres. I looked at possibility of townhomes. The city has a requirement of 100-foot right-of-way, which is not there. So when I started to look at this type of development, with it being on an 80-foot roadway, as you know, came over the last year, looking for your approval to modify that, which you did, and I thank you for that. But I believe that this property would be more appropriate for this type of housing as opposed to a single-family detached. It's a development with a density that would be somewhat in the middle with those semi-busy roads that would be more appropriate than what, and to provide a type of buffer with the existing homes. We believe that a 55 and older development would be the best use. There were 4 developments. There have been a couple of others that have come in recently. There is still a great need, as you've heard tonight. Even with these developments, there are probably, with all combined, maybe 700 to 800 units with all developments in a city of 140,000. There is still a great need that will be there to continue. The other developments are very nice developments. I've been through those developments, talked to residents. There is a tremendous backlog from seniors that are looking to get into those developments. The density of our development is 6.5 units per acre. The density of the surrounding homes is, I believe, somewhere in the area of about 2.5 units per acre. This is not a high density development. We still have to provide 50% open space throughout the development. I don't know where this came with originally we made a proposal that we backed off on or something of that type. We have to meet that 50% open space, and that's a code requirement, and we're working to meet that, which will determine the amount of units that we have. The development will have a structured HOA, and the common areas will be maintained by the HOA. We will be installing a solid precast concrete wall on 7200 West and on Parkway Boulevard. That's not required by the code, city code, but we are going to install that to help buffer against those roads. We will also install a vinyl fence along the south and the east side of the development. The development will have a very low impact traffic-wise on the existing homes. The traffic in these developments are much lower than what you'd see even in a single-family development. They're about half of, I think, of what you would see in single-family developments. Our buyers are empty nesters, couples, widows, widowers, single owners. Many do not make anywhere near the car trips that you would see in a single-family type development. Our smallest floor plan is 1,520 feet, not 12,000. That's a big home. 1,520 is our minimum square footage plan that exceeds the city requirements. We have an option to do a bonus room over the garage that would bring the square footage of the units up to 2,400 square feet. The floor plans will vary between 2 to 3 bedrooms, but we would have a situation where we would take that footprint of the home and we would have different floor plans. Some floor plans may have 2 bedrooms and an office. Some may have 2 bedrooms, and then we would eliminate one of the bedrooms, but bring that area into a larger great room or into a bigger kitchen to provide that living area as opposed to bedrooms, keeping in mind that these types of homeowners are not necessarily going to want 3 or 4 bedrooms. In the bonus areas, bonus rooms over the garage, that could be storage, that could be craft rooms, that could be office and other areas. We anticipate building at least a quarter of the homes with the bonus rooms. If the council had a desire to specify a certain amount, I'd be happy to modify our development agreement proposal to a minimum of 25% of the units having the bonus room, but I don't really want to specify that it would be bedrooms. Could be storage or another use. This development will connect very well into the existing park system throughout Sugar Plum and into the Hunter Village development that we developed. And it will tie, I'm very excited about the trail system. It would connect this development with the Bingham Point 55 and older community by trail. And it would also connect by trail over to the Hunter Village Villa 55 and older. So all three of those developments would be connected by a trail system, which I think there could be some interaction between those communities, a little bit more cohesiveness, and would help utilize the existing park that's just extensive through both those developments. The housing market's very challenging for buyers, as we all know. And in particular, it's challenging for seniors and empty nesters. We believe that our requested zone change would be the best use for the property and will serve the residents of West Valley City. You know, it's interesting. I've had a number of residents contact me in West Valley City, and surprisingly from Magna Township, with interest in this development. And that has only come from this public meetings. We don't have a sign up. We don't have a marketing. We don't have it on our website. I've had a lot of interest from some residents in the Magna Township, because this is right on the border. Right across the street is Magna. And all of them have been very positive and have had interest in possibly selling their home and moving to it. As council members, you have a unique opportunity to plan and shape the future needs of West Valley City and to help provide for the needs of all the residents of the city. This development will provide housing for empty nesters and single seniors. It's interesting when you come to city council meetings, you have residents that can voice their opinions. But there's not really always an opportunity for those residents that might look to this development to want to move into that development to voice their opinion. We've had a few of them, but I think if we had an opportunity for those seniors, they would have their voice also, and most likely are residents of the city. So I would request that you approve it. It'll be a quality development that any city would be very happy to have. And I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have. Okay.
Doesn't look like any.
Thank
so
you very much.
Thank you. Now I think we've got them all. With that then, we'll close the public comment portion, bring it back to the council.
Mayor, I'll speak to this project. I recognize and appreciate that Mr. Moore has been working on this for a long time, and in fact came and was able to help us change the ordinance so that this project would be allowed at that property. And I remember that and don't take that lightly. It is true that we have recently passed or approved several of these developments. And I'm in favor of a variety of housing. I probably would prefer this development over the last one that we passed. I would have rather have seen that one be reserved for residential estates. But looking at the city as a whole, as we just keep passing these, we will run out of opportunity for more residential estate housing. And so while for me it is a close question, I don't think that I'm going to be in support of it tonight.
I'll add a few comments. I've recently, based upon my involvement with the Chamber of Commerce, been working heavily on the issue of housing, affordable housing, and have studied a lot about the different types of housing. You know, West Valley City is a city of now about 140,000 people. And we have many different types of housing in our city, ranging from small homes to trailer parks, to condos, to apartment buildings, single family detached dwellings of many different sizes and styles. The two areas I thought were particularly West Valley was, and this is a term I'm using, is unbalanced, meaning I don't think the mix is complete, was in senior housing and in large homes, the residential estates that we have prepared. Now, West Valley City is almost all built out. There are not a lot of pieces of ground left. So the challenge is, do we try and address both of those? And that's personally what I've been trying to do. But I also believe that there is a limit that we should not exceed on these senior condo type developments. At the most, I think another, if you include tonight, a maximum for me of 3. I think the rest should be reserved for single family homes, the residential estates. Now, I'm not going to be terribly unhappy if that varies a little bit. I think the city needs both of those. And there is one concern I have that was expressed on that intersection, and I don't know if we need to relook at the entryways and how that might be addressed. I don't know. But certainly that's true of more than just that intersection. In fact, they just opened up this Mountain View corridor and these new intersections on 35th. And I've driven those and I'm kind of like, you know, well, there's some problems there too. And they're brand new, supposedly the latest and greatest. But I think we do want to take a look at that, regardless of how this vote turns out. We ought to probably put that on our agenda, if the council feels comfortable with that, for our study meeting to discuss what we can do there to improve that. So,
As far as the intersection, you mean, Mayor?
yeah.
So I did already ask Mr. Johnson to give me some information as to what might have already been looked at for this proposed development and or anything else. And we'll get you back report on that. And there may be some merit to some of the suggestions, and we will report back on that.
Yeah, and that is one of the things. I go out there. I was in your neighborhood actually that same night when all the police cars were there. I didn't get in the neighborhood. I actually parked out at one of the farmers' houses and walked. Anyway, but turning off of 7200 West is an issue. And so I tend to do the same thing. Although I try to be a very cautious driver, I tend to hurry when I turn into that subdivision because of the traffic. Actually, I try and go when there's not traffic. I don't go out there unless I absolutely have to. But as you see, every development has people who are in favor of it or opposed to it. And our responsibility certainly is to judge what has the best impact for our city. And so some of these will pass and some of them will not. And whichever answer comes out, they're both good answers. They're both good answers. However, remember that just because your particular point of view doesn't win does not mean that there's something wrong with those on the side of those who won. It is not because of any nefarious type of activity, any underhanded efforts. It is an honest, real difference of opinion on what is needed in particular areas of our city. Truthfully, I believe that both answers, whether it's single-family detached homes or senior housing, are good answers, and there's nothing wrong with either one of them. We are going to have to deal with traffic, and there'll be some parking issues possibly there. And in that 20%, we'll probably get some with multiple families. I mean, we get it, we're getting that right now. We deal with the reality of it. Anyway, just wanted to give some feedback there, just to kind of put that in perspective, because there have been some comments made. And with that, still in the council's possession. Further comments, motions, questions?
I don't know that I'm comfortable tonight making a vote without the traffic study. I know that we need 100 units to justify a traffic study, but I think we may need to talk about that in the future as well, of anything maybe over 25 or 30, because we've had quite a few of these that the residents have been concerned about the traffic, and without having the information tonight as to which would cause more traffic, single family homes or the senior living, I'm not comfortable making a positive vote for this tonight. But I don't know if if anybody's leaning to a continuance or not.
I don't know. There's obviously been traffic studies on 7200 West. We did some when the road was widened a number of years ago. We probably keep some studies of that. The staff have a general idea or do they have to do a traffic study, Mr. Pyle?
Let me refer back to Mr. Johnson and Mr. Pastorick. Either one of them may have some further information to help with that. It's Mr. Johnson first and then Steve.
Mr. Johnson, yeah, why don't you come out here? That way we get your smiling face on the.
Glad to be here. Thank you. Regarding some, there was definitely some good comments and some suggestions offered earlier about the intersection at 7200 West and Parkway Boulevard. Some of those likely have some merit and certainly things that we can look at. Now, regarding a traffic study of whether or not these 100 additional units are going to make a substantial impact, or less than 100 units, but are going to make a substantial impact. I mean, that's something I couldn't shoot from the hip on and try to analyze what that would look like. My gut tells me that the impact on the local the impact on the local traffic is not necessarily going to be great from this one development, but there probably are some things that we can look at regarding safety improvements that would need to be done that may or may not be associated with the development, but could be done in conjunction with the development and could likely be addressed as we work through the final plan review process.
Are there any traffic studies that have been done recently for other reasons there on 7200 West and in the area?
Other than traffic counts, I guess we've done some traffic studies for the development that happened north around 2540 Beagley Lane area, but wouldn't necessarily have great impact on what's happening here. But this intersection was included in that traffic study that we could look at as well. So there's definitely things we can explore to maybe get the council some additional information on what the traffic looks like out there currently.
Questions?
I have a question. Mr. Johnson, what's our control over this intersection, given that it's not entirely within the city?
Sure. The section line of 7200 West is the boundary between Magna Metro Township and West Valley City. And so really anything east of the section line, the center line of that of 7200 West, we have complete control over. But certainly things that you would do to an intersection, whether it be changing alignments or adding lanes, anything that would shift alignments of lanes, we would need to coordinate with Magna Metro Township.
Any traffic signaling, same.
And the signal.
And is that a
modifications
state
as well.
highway or is that going to be a county issue then?
It's going to be a county Magna Metro Township and West Valley City issue.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Question about notifications. I know that it is routine to inform the adjacent residences about any of these kinds of changes. Does that also apply to across city lines into other townships or cities?
Are you saying notifications, legal notifications for the development?
Correct.
That would not be my area of expertise.
Councilman Fitzie Umanu, I can respond to that. We do mail outs 300 feet, and that includes both West Valley and Magna residents.
Thank you. Is that what you're going to say? Perfect.
Anything else for me?
Any other questions? Any other comments?
So I have one question for Mr.
Sure.
Johnson. On Parkway Boulevard, is it striped the 5 lanes all the way to the intersection? So is there that center pull-in lane?
Parkway Boulevard does not have, it's striped for 1 lane in each direction from, well, really from Mountain View Corridor all the way to 7200 West. So there is no median. The pavement is wide enough on the south side that we could explore a shift in the alignment to put in a 2-way turn lane. But at 7200 West, there's as I recall, there's an eastbound through lane, a westbound through lane, and a left turn lane. And then I believe that the rights and the through westbound share a lane. That's my memory. but
Okay.
Don't quote me on it.
Well, that's what my map showed. So I was just verifying that I had a current one. Okay, thank you.
Okay, Mr. Pastrick.
Thank you. So I was just going to make a comment about the traffic that would be generated if you look at senior condos versus single-family homes. So there's an organization called the Institute of Transportation Engineers, and they look at the typical traffic generated from, say, a townhome or single-family home or senior condo. And a typical single-family detached home generates just under 10 trips per day. And a senior adult housing, so attached senior condos, is about 3.5. So it is just unit for unit, it's significantly less. Now, when you look at it from a development standpoint, it would depend on how many homes would be in the project, what the density of a single family detached product would be, but unit for unit, it is significantly different. And then one other point would be that if the council wanted, there could be a development agreement or a change to the development agreement that a traffic study be included. It's not in there now, but that would be an option to have that be part of the development agreement.
So what would be a normal single-family density on a piece of acreage this size?
So with if we went with the RE zone, it would be probably 2.5 units to the acre, somewhere between 2.5 and 3 units to the acre.
And how's that compare with this?
This one is about 6 and 6.5 roughly.
So roughly twice the number of units, but half the number of trips generated. So is it roughly safe to say it's about equivalent?
Roughly.
Okay.
Now, just a question, you say put the traffic study in the development agreement, but if we were to pass that development agreement, you do the traffic study and it doesn't matter what it comes out, the development agreement is approved. So what value is that? What if it shows something that is a big deal? It seems odd to put it in the development agreement. If we feel we need more information, my personal feeling is that we, ought to not vote on it yet. We ought to continue it. But if we're going to vote, then I say, why are we doing the traffic study?
I agree. I don't think that we need that. The data that Mr. Pastrick has given us is familiar. We've heard it before that,
Yeah.
single-family homes bring more traffic, but of course, there are less of them on any given parcel. And it is a rough equivalence. I don't think that, from my perspective, that would be a reason one way or another to approve or deny this application.
Any other questions for Mr. Pastrick, Mr. Johnson, Mr. Moore? No? Yeah. In this one, we can allow more than one comment. So, yes. That holds true for everyone.
On the traffic, we do not connect to 7200 West. There's no connection there. The preliminary conceptual plan that we have provided has two connections. Maybe they can bring it up, but there's a connection to Parkway and there's a connection to Antelope. Both, and that's an interior road. So you would come back to 72. So you could either have our new connection to Parkway. You could come back, go down Antelope to 72, or go back up through the roundabout and out the other street that's east of there. As far as a traffic study, there is a benefit and there is something that could come after. What they would look at is they might say, for example, when you come out to Parkway, that there would be a right turn only. You could specify that as a right turn only lane, or a median, if needed in Parkway, so that you wouldn't be turning across the traffic on that particular. But I don't think any of these are, the traffic numbers are to that point where from these 43 units, the traffic is probably similar or less than what you would see on a single family detached. So I don't see the traffic as an issue. There's three different ways to access this, and there is no connection to 7200 that we would have, and that is definitely the busiest road. So hopefully that maybe addresses some of it.
Well, just thinking out loud.
Yes.
I think of going east on Parkway. If there was a way you could get off the street from the travel lane. I've seen some places where it's kind of like my subdivision. There's this little teeny turn lane. And it's about 2 car lanes long that you can get over and slow down a little bit as I turn into my subdivision. Doesn't mean that the whole street has to be that. You don't have to add another lane. And maybe that's something we could look at, Mr. Pyle. That's a 50-foot turn spot. I guess I'd call it. I don't know what the official term is. That might work to help alleviate some of it, but that's only in one direction.
Well, and I think, I don't know if it was Council Member Lang that had brought up whether it was striped. It is not on Parkway. I don't think the traffic's to the point that it's the right of way is there, but they have not striped the center turn lane. And so the right of way, the width will be there. And I think it would be very wise just to stripe that center turn lane to come in. And is it on Parkway right now, I believe there's just, it's striped as one lane each way. There's not like a center island to turn in because there's nothing to turn into there.
I think the only striping there is a left turn lane down by 7200.
But there's plenty of right of way to have 2 lanes each way and a center turn lane in the future.
Well, there's right of way, but it may not currently be paved.
Yes.
So that would mean that to solve that problem, and the more pavement you put in, see, I was looking at a temporary, if you will, a short-term solution. Paving a small turn lane there just on the one side could be done easily. If we're going to change that into, a center lane and to one lane in each direction, so 3 lanes, all the way from there to the intersection is a lot more expensive. A lot more expensive.
Yeah, the eventuality is that it will be an 80-foot right away with the 5 lanes.
Yeah.
So, thank you.
Eventually that will come. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Mayor, just a reminder, which I know you may want to make an exception anyway, but you did close the public hearing.
Yeah, I was just thinking about that. Another one of those little glitches that creep up on me. But it's the will of the council.
Absolutely.
Do you want to let anyone else speak?
I think we should under the circumstances.
Okay, we will, should I officially open up the public comment? Okay, we're going to open up the public comment again officially. Is there anyone here who wants to speak to this? Sure.
Mr. Mayor and Council, just a question on the current zoning. You mentioned that it would be 2.5 single family per acre. Was that Mr. Pastuzik? I said that
Pastrick,
wrong.
yes.
Pastrick, 2.5 per acre. The lot size that my home is on is currently 0.4 acres, so I feel like that may be a little overstated.
The reason that exists is because of all the other improvements as well. It's not just divided up by the number of houses on an acre. So the numbers don't quite line up.
I was just thinking if you were looking at a traffic study and you said there's 10 trips per single family and there's really our neighborhood would be a lot less than 2 per acre. So it wouldn't really be equivalent. There would be a lot less traffic with the single family with the larger lot size that we have in our neighborhood. Not to mention the integration of the walking trails that you mentioned, which we all love in that neighborhood. If you furthered those along in that neighborhood and added width for turning lanes, that would even make that a little bit smaller. Thank you.
I'd like to make a comment, just to be clear, we're not considering an application to change the zoning to residential estates. That's not before us. So if we don't approve the zone change, it would remain agricultural.
Yes, and Mr. Pastrick, I think, made clear that he was using averages. And so it could be higher or lower depending on the particular circumstances of that subdivision, not just based on home size or lot size, but rather on the activity that occurs there. And so that would have to be measured as well. So that was to only give us an idea. So with that, anyone else? I think someone else wanted to make a comment since we've opened it back up.
Yes, I'm going to talk about the seniors because I am a senior, but I have a problem with this 80% and 20%. And how do you regulate the 20%?
Those are federal numbers. We cannot change them.
That's exactly what I've been trying to tell you. Federal numbers. You can't go in and tell that individual because I'm 55 and I'm 70 that I can't have my grandson living in there.
That's right.
You cannot. I guarantee you cannot. You cannot do it.
This is not the place to debate that. I said that. If you're looking for me, it's Mr. Christensen.
Who said that?
Mr. Christensen, the
Mr.
76-year-old.
Christensen, you're out of order. I didn't
No, I'm
call on
not.
you. I'm
That's
talking
just-
here, not you.
This is not the place to debate that type of thing.
I understand,
We're
but
debating-
I'm a senior
Okay.
citizen and I'm debating the
Excuse me,
fact that the
let's
senior
let's
citizens.
both of you just stop for a moment.
What?
In our council meetings, our goal is to observe one another's courtesy. And the microphone was yours. Mr. Christensen will give you some time to respond to that.
Thank you.
But let's not, we want to keep your voices down. We want to stay respectful. We're okay with differing opinions, okay? Thank
What
you.
was that question you told me? It's right here. I assure you, I will be respectable. I will assure you that the problem a lot of times is you go ahead and develop these properties and it never becomes what it's supposed to be. There's no guarantees that so many cars are going to be in this establishment. There's not going to, well, you can say, okay, here it is. We're only going to have 80% of the senior citizens, but yet you're going to increase it. How many units? You just added the same amount of number of traffic cars as it was for single residents, supposedly, quote. It's a basket of mixed fruit is what it is. And the ultimate thing here, is it safe? Is this a safe place for seniors? I don't think so. I think it'd be more safe if there were stronger guidelines in when you develop and allowing more seniors to have more say what goes on in their development. Developers don't care after they sign an agreement with the city. They're through and done. It's you guys here that have to live with the consequences. But you guys are going to be gone. You're going to go up and leave, and all the rest of the problems is going to be for the new mayor. So you will be on your horse. So what do you care?
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Christensen.
My point was just that we aren't here to determine the federal regulations in this public hearing. And so that was out of order, trying to determine those during the public hearing.
Thank you, Mr. Christensen. The reality is that there are federal regulations and there is flexibility in those, because there must be, as I understand it, one individual over 55, but they can have a grandchild live with them. If it's a teenager and he's got a car or a motorcycle, they can live there too. The whole concept, we'll bring it back. I believe that was everyone that wanted to speak. We'll close that public hearing portion, come back to council, is to address the issue before us. Will we approve this general plan change, zoning change, and development agreement? And so we can decide that tonight, or we can continue it. Each council member has the right to make a motion as they feel appropriate. And we can
Mayor?
still discuss it more. Yes, Councilwoman Lang.
May I ask Steve Pastrick one more question?
You
On
certainly
the issue of the Planning Commission's recommendations, did they vote for the 2 entrances and exits or just the one onto Parkway?
So in their motion, they did not specify that. The applicant did show the 2 options, but ultimately they did not put in the development agreement that there had to be the 2 access points. So they left that open.
Okay, so if a motion's made in favor, it could be to just have the 1 entrance and exit onto Parkway and nothing onto Antelope?
Yes, that's an option.
Because isn't that road substantially smaller?
It is, yeah.
Okay.
Antelope is a typical residential street.
And wasn't our intention with the multi-resident, with this new senior living, we proposed and passed was that they would go out onto an 80-foot right of way? Or how was that stated?
Right. So in order to be eligible to apply for this type of zoning, they would need to have access and frontage on a road with at least 80 feet of right of way. So Parkway and 72 both would qualify for that. Now, it doesn't preclude the development from having access on another street, but they would have to have access and frontage on at least one street that had 80 feet of right of way.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I'd like to make a motion.
That's in order. Please proceed. Lars, I'm going to interrupt you. Must have a bad connection.
Ordinance 21-39. Can you hear me now?
Yes and no. We hear some of you, or some of your words, not others. Try it again. Go ahead.
I move that we approve ordinance 21-39.
And Mayor, I'm going to second. Well, thanks, Don. I want to speak to the motion now. I said I didn't think I was going to be in favor, but I've had my mind changed.
Okay, the motion is properly before us, a first and a second. Further discussion.
So is there,
Oh, yes, go ahead.
would either one of you be inclined to include that the only street available for entrance and exit is Parkway to keep the higher traffic off of Antelope, since it's a much smaller residential street?
No.
I paused to hear if there are any further comments. The maker of the motion controls his motion, so it is not part of the motion. Any further comments?
But if the motion doesn't pass, then there could be a new motion that it be passed with whatever other conditions or requirements.
Yes, if the motion fails, that's all that happens. The motion fails. The issue is still before us. Any subsequent motions can be made. You can have issues there with turn lanes or with exits or modifications to the development agreement. That's what developers deal with all the time. Cities, make additions. And the Planning Commission as well. Anyway. Any further comments? Hearing none.
So just to clarify, the motion and the second is for approval of the current
It is to
ordinance as currently
approve
written.
ordinance 21-39 as it is currently written.
Thank you.
And so that would include the flexibility of either one or two entrances.
Well, and 2139 is a general plan change, I think.
Excuse me, that's right.
When
Yeah,
we're talking
it's in the
about the
development
details,
agreement.
that would be the resolution.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So this is just for the general plan change. Thank you. Hearing no further comments, to our city recorder for the roll call vote.
Councilman Fitzie Umanu,
No?
Councilwoman Lang,
No.
Councilman Bueller,
Aye.
Councilman Christensen,
Yes.
Councilman Nordfelt,
Yes.
and Mayor Bigelow.
Aye.
Motion passes by majority.
Okay. I didn't hear Lars. It looked like he had his mute button on, but I guess you heard him, not me. I miss it often, so. Okay, that took care of that item, and we'll get down to the stuff that I'm interested in here in a minute, to the council.
Move for approval of ordinance 21-40.
Second.
Properly before us. Any further discussion? Seeing and hearing none, to our city recorder for the vote.
Councilman Nordfelt,
Yes.
Councilman Christensen,
Yes.
Councilman Bueller,
Aye.
Councilwoman Lang,
No.
Councilman Fitzie Umanu,
No.
and Mayor Bigelow.
Aye.
Motion passes by majority.
Okay. Council?
Move to approve resolution 21-109.
Second.
Properly before us. Any further discussion?
Do you have a preference to add only one entrance? Maker of the motion?
If, yeah, I would prefer that maybe Antelope not be an option for that entrance.
I'm sorry, speak up a little bit.
Yes, I guess my preference would be then that Parkway be the main entrance way rather than Antelope.
So you were saying that you would modify the motion to only have one entrance?
Correct.
Interesting.
Would there still be a second to that?
I would still second it, but would there be a concern with egress in case of an emergency? Would the fire department have a problem with it, is what I'm saying.
I don't know the answer to that. Can staff help us?
Mr. Pasterik, one entrance would be sufficient for this size of development. And what are the issues related to emergency entrance and exit?
Yes, so one access would be sufficient for attached housing like this would be. You can have actually up to 100 units on one point of access.
Okay. Then I'm supportive.
And your second still holds with the change? This would bring it more into compliance with what, we have said specifically on entrances and exits. With that, I do have one concern, and that is that there be, adding just a little spot to get off the road to turn in off of, and it's only the right-hand turn, not the left-hand turn. Would you be interested at all in adding that in there? That we do that? To have it doesn't have to be very long,
A right turn lane.
a right turn lane off of Parkway, just to kind of improve the safety there.
So we're making the approval of the development agreement contingent upon the city striping the road.
Well, it's more than striping, isn't it, Mr. Pyle?
My recollection is Mr. Pastrick, or maybe it was Mr. Johnson, said there was enough or sufficient pavement there to make some improvements. So it may be that striping is all that's needed. If not, then yeah, you'd have some asphalt work that would need to be added.
I think then, given that is actually two separate items, because it wouldn't need to be or it shouldn't be actually in the development agreement, because the developer has no control over that. But if the council is comfortable with that, we could ask the city to go ahead and take care of that.
And I would certainly ask the city to evaluate this road as all roads and stripe it or widen it or do whatever is appropriate for, and maybe this bumps it up to the top of the list, but I'm not a traffic engineer, not comfortable with making a direction, and certainly not comfortable with requiring the developer to require the city to make some sort of a change.
Okay, very good. The motion is before us, exactly as was stated. Any questions there? If there are no further concerns, I'm going to turn to the city recorder and say, let's take the roll call vote.
Councilman Fitzie Umanu.
Aye.
Councilwoman Lang.
Yes.
Councilman Bueller.
Aye.
Councilman Christensen.
Yes.
Councilman Nordfelt.
Yes.
And Mayor Bigelow.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you very much. Now, if the council is supportive of that, we'd have our staff take a look at putting in right-hand turn lane there, evaluate it. That's not saying do it. That says evaluate it and come back to us.
I got that from
Okay.
the conversation. Thanks, Mayor.
No, I want to make sure it's clear. Yes, sometimes I state the obvious if I don't just forget to state it at all, so. With that then, thank you. Next, we will go to application ZT-2-2021 filed by the city requesting a zone text change to internal accessory dwelling units. This particular proposal, and we'll open it for public comment in just a moment, is changes made to our ordinances that are based upon action taken by the Utah State Legislature. They made some changes to accessory dwelling units, and we are bringing our ordinance into conformity with that ordinance. Is there anything else, Mr. Powell, you ought to add there? This is a...
No, sir.
Okay. Then with that introduction, we'll open, unless anyone else has a comment. Okay. We'll open it for public comment. Is there anyone here to speak to this issue? Seeing and none. And Nicole, there's no one online for this?
No, sir.
Okay. Then we'll close the public comment. We'll bring it back to the council for consideration of ordinance 21-41.
Move for approval of ordinance 21-41.
Second.
Properly before us. Any further comments? Hearing none, to our city recorder for the vote.
Councilman Fitzie Umanu.
Aye.
Councilwoman Lang.
Yes.
Councilman Bueller.
Aye.
Councilman Christensen.
Yes.
Councilman Nordfelt.
Yes.
And Mayor Bigelow.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. Next, we go to application ZT-4-2021, filed by the city, again, a zone text change. This is to amend our standards for single-unit dwellings and two-unit dwellings. This one was on the some of the design and materials, again, passed by the Utah State Legislature and now state law. This change will bring our ordinance into compliance with state law. I don't know that we need to go into details of each one of those, but it doesn't matter. It's state law. So, any other comments? You want to add any other? Hearing none, then I'll open it for public comment. Nicole, anyone online?
No, sir.
Anyone here to speak to it? Okay. Then we'll close the public comment period portion and bring it back to the council for consideration of ordinance 21-42.
Move to approve ordinance 21-42.
Second.
Properly before us, hearing no further comments, to our city recorder for the vote.
Councilman Nordfelt.
Yes.
Councilman Christensen.
Yes.
Councilman Bueller.
Aye.
Councilwoman Lang.
Yes.
And Councilman Fitzie Umanu.
Aye.
Mayor Bigelow.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
Next, we have our consent agenda. We have two resolutions on there, 21-110 and 111. These are to ratify the city manager's appointments of Joseph Taggart to the Professional Standards Review Board and Rebecca Dunnigan as on the Clean and Beautiful Committee. With that, to the council.
Move for approval of the two items on the consent agenda.
Second.
Properly before us, hearing no further comments, to our city recorder for the vote.
Councilman Fitzie Umanu.
Aye.
Councilwoman Lang.
Yes.
Councilman Bueller.
Aye.
Councilman Christensen,
Yes.
Councilman Nordfelt,
Yes.
and Mayor Bigelow.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
So we got everyone there, Nicole? Clearly? Okay. With that, council, that completes our agenda. There is no need for a closed session. We do have our RDA meeting next, and so our regular city council meeting will be adjourned, and then we'll have a brief RDA meeting immediately following.
Move to adjourn the regular city council.
Without objection, then our meeting will stand adjourned. Hearing no objections, our regular city council meeting is adjourned unanimously. Thank you.
I call to order the special meeting of the RDA, noting that we have had a roll call or a opening ceremony and a roll call, and Mr. Hune is excused. We have our minutes of June 1st, 2021. Are there any amendments or a motion on the minutes?
Move to accept. the
Motion
minutes.
to approve the minutes.
Second.
Without any objection, we will approve the minutes as is. Second, we have a resolution 21-07. Mr. Pyle, would you mind explaining this, please?
Sure, thank you, ma'am. We have the opportunity to consider a proposed redevelopment project, and as we all know, as the city develops, redevelopment becomes more and more important to our overall community and economic development effort, just as background. For this particular project we're talking about here, we actually have the, we have the opportunity to expand in partnership with Hexcel Corporation's corporate leadership, their presence here in the city, which is something that we've worked for a long time and have been successful at that, both in their attraction and their expansion over the years. Hexcel has valued and examined and decided in conjunction with us that they'd like to expand that partnership, and they're actually going to bring their headquarters operation here to the site here in West Valley from, I believe it is California, if I remember correctly. So this project foresees us working in partnership with them. There is an incentive package that's involved with that, but it's in line with what our return on investment criteria normally considers, and also, as with all of our redevelopment projects, is a post-performance situation, meaning that there are no incentives, nothing goes to that corporation until they fulfill their end of the bargain or project in this case. And with that, ma'am, I'll give it back to you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. There was a lot of heavy lifting on this one, and I appreciate everything staff has done. Are there any concerns or a motion from the committee?
Madam Chair, I move for approval of resolution 2107.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. We will now turn it over to Ms. Kamak for a roll call vote.
Mr. Fitissimanu,
Aye.
Mr. Bueller,
Aye.
Mr. Bigelow,
Aye.
Mr. Christensen,
Yes.
Mr. Nordfelt,
Yes.
and Chairwoman Lang.
Yes, thank you.
Motion passes unanimous.
Thank you. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Thank you. And without objection, we will stand adjourned. Thank you and have a great week. Oops.